In this video, we will learn about functions in Python with examples. We will see how we can create a function. We will also work around different function arguments in Python. That includes required keyword, arbitrary keyword, default, and others. With that, we will also work around what is recursion and the return statement in Python. Let's begin. A function in Python is basically an organized block of reusable code. That means if you want to reuse a code in your program, you can just create a function and call it. For example, let's say you want area of a rectangle. So to find the area of a rectangle, what you just need length and breadth. Let's say you have multiple values for length and breadth. Instead of writing the code again and again, you can easily calculate it once in a function and call it again and again. This will actually reduce your task. This will also reduce your code. Okay, that is the LOC, the line of codes will also get reduced. Function in Python should begin with the keyword def. Here it is. Then it is followed by the name of the function and parentheses. So at first we will see how we can create a function. Then we will see how to call a function. With that we will also see how to add parameters to a function. Okay, let's begin. Let us create a new project on PyCharm ID. Herein I'll name it Python functions. Click on create. After clicking create, here is our project. Right click and create your first program. Right click, new Python file. I'll name it demo and press enter. Here is our first program. Let us see how to create a function in Python. So let us first define a function using the def keyword I told you before. Let's say our function name is demo. You need to add a colon here. This is the syntax. Here and now we can add anything. Let's say I'm giving a simple example. I'm writing a demo text. Okay, so I added this. Now I'll just call this function. So this is call. This is define a function. Now when I'll run it, run demo, right click, you can see we just called this function and the function went here and it printed whatever it was having here, which we added while defining. So this was a basic function in Python. Now we'll work around another example that will show you how to work with function parameters. The names entered in the function at the time of defining it are function parameters. So adding parameters to a function is optional. Okay, let's see how we can learn about it using an example. Here I'll create another file. Press enter. So to understand, we will create another example. So I'll create a demo function again. Let's say I'm printing device name. Okay, so herein I added device and herein I added the value which we have added as a parameter now. Okay, so this is our parameter. I told you function parameters. So under function we created a parameter and we are printing it here. But you would be wondering, where are the values? We'll be passing the values while calling the function. Okay, so I am calling this function just like I did in the previous program. Herein I'll just pass the values. Okay, that will get printed here since it is a function parameter. For device, let's say laptop is a device. I'll just write laptop, and when the function call will occur, it will take this value here. So string will be having laptop and it will get printed here. That's it. Herein you can see device laptop printed. You can add multiple values here. Now let's say I added desktop. Then I added mobile. Mobile is also a device. Right click and run it. Now 3 values will get printed. Okay, laptop, desktop, mobile. So we learned about function parameters in this example. So we passed along the values here and printed it using the str variable. Now guys, we will work around function arguments. These are the types of arguments which we can add to a function: required keyword, arbitrary keyword, default, and variable length. So let's see the examples one by one. I'll add demo 3, press enter. So the required arguments, as the name suggests, are the required number of arguments to be passed on a function call. So we just saw passing parameters. In the same way, whenever you will call a function, the arguments in the call should match with the function definition for the program. Okay, if the position of the argument will get changed, there will be an error. So let us see an example to understand this further. Let's say we created an area method. Within that, we need length and breadth, so we added them as a parameter. Okay, so we want to calculate the area of rectangle. Okay, so I'll just write area of rectangle, and how we calculate it, I'll mention it here, length into breadth. Okay, so in the same way like we did in the previous program call, we will call the area function, but while calling we will pass the values. Let's say here I'll pass 20 and 30 to calculate the area. So 20 and 30 will reach here. So length will be 20 and breadth will be 30. Okay, so right click and print, run. You can see we calculated area of rectangle. So required argument suggests that the arguments in the call will match with the function definition. Okay, so we had two values here and it went here. If I'll remove one, let's say I'll run it now, there is an error. Area missing one required positional argument. This is what I was telling you, required argument. Okay, you need to add two arguments. And the position of the arguments should remain the same. Okay, so this is what we discussed on the required arguments in Python. Now let us move further. Now we will discuss about keyword arguments, how it is different from required with an example. So using keyword argument, you can skip arguments or even pass them in any order while calling a function. It is completely different from what we saw before. That is different from required arguments. Herein you can skip arguments and change the order while calling simply. So let's see another example. We have created details function here and we have two parameters, name and rank. So herein what we did, we passed two parameters and printed them. Now we will perform function call. While calling the function, herein you can see I have written details. Since we are working on keyword arguments, we can pass in any order. Why? How? Since we have mentioned the arguments here, you can see I am passing in any other order. The rank is coming first and name is coming after that. Okay, so we have changed the order while calling. Right click and run demo. And you can see student name Jack and student rank 5. Since we have used keyword arguments, it automatically took the correct values and printed. So in this way you can pass the arguments in random order easily. If you want, you can also add more arguments to it. Let's say name, rank. Let's say I added one more argument, points, and herein I printed the same. Now I'll set points here. Let's say 110.50. Now I'll run it. We have three arguments now. I ran it. Okay, now let's say I'll call it again using random values. Let's say the points will come at first and rest will come after that. Points, let's say 150.50, rank is 3, name is Amit. Now I'll run it and there won't be any error because we are working on keyword arguments. Okay, here you can see there are no errors now. Run it. Okay, here you can see no error now. Rank perfectly placed, points perfectly, and name also perfectly placed using keyword arguments. Now let us see another example. Herein we'll work around default arguments in Python. Okay, as the name suggests, when you'll call a function, if you won't pass a value, a default value will get assumed for the argument. Okay, so there won't be any error. Like in required, we removed one of the parameters and there was an error. There won't be any error here because it will get set as default. Let us see an example. So I have set two parameters, name and rank, under details method. under details function and printed them. Now I'll call it. So this is the same. When I'll call it, Jack and 5 will get printed. It got printed. Now let's say I just added name as, let's say Tim. Okay, but we missed the rank parameter here. How we can avoid the error? I'll just add a default value here. Okay, so when I miss the rank, when I'll run it for Tim, the rank will come as 10 because we have already set it as default. Right click, run. Now the rank of Tim will be 10. Check here. Herein we have the rank of Tim as 10. With that we can also add more variables. We can add more parameters. Let's say I added for score. I printed score here as let's say 50.50, and also I'll student score, I'll just mention score here. Okay, now what will happen? At first the following will get printed completely. Here it is, we printed it completely. Now what about the second one? Since we missed both the rank and score here, the default will get printed for Tim. In the same way, right click and run. You can see now Tim will have rank 10 and score 60.50. Okay, now what if I'll just add rank for this 7 and the name I'll change it Will. Now let's see, for the last one the score will be the default, now 60.50. Here it is. Okay, so in this way you can work around default arguments in Python. Now let us move further. Herein we'll work around arbitrary arguments in Python. It is also called variable length arguments. Okay, arbitrary arguments work when you have no idea about the number of arguments to be passed. Okay, when you don't know how many arguments you will pass to the function. So you can pass any number of arguments defined as asterisk star sign. Okay, this means include a star and asterisk before the parameter name while defining the function. Okay, let's see an example to understand it completely. I'll now create a demo function. Okay, within that let's say I added a parameter sports and printed values for sports 1 at first. Okay, now I'll print 3 values with different indexes. So how can I avoid any error in this? I'll just add arbitrary argument. We'll add a star here. Now this will be an arbitrary argument because we have no idea about the number of arguments to be passed. Now I'll call. When I'll run it, it will display me the value for sports 1, 2 and 3. Okay, now let's say we will use now a for loop to display all the variable length argument values. This will give you a better picture about the example. Let us create a new example for the same. Okay, now I've created example 2 for the same concept, variable length arbitrary arguments. Now let us see. We will again add the sports parameter arbitrary argument. Okay, but we won't show the values here, but we won't print the exact value by index number. We will just write displaying passed arguments. Okay, I'll just use the for loop in sports. Okay, sports is our argument here. Okay, arbitrary argument, and I'll print the value. That's it. So this will allow us to print. This will allow us to print all the values, but we haven't passed any value now. Okay, for that what I'll do, I'll just call. I'll add the values while calling. Football, hockey. When there will be a call, all these values will go here and it will get printed using for loop. So this is the usage of arbitrary arguments. That is, you have no idea till here, okay, that how many number of arguments you have. Okay, now you can see, okay, we have an error, the colon, we missed the colon, no problem. When I'll run it again, you can see we printed all the arguments. So this is the usage of our arbitrary arguments in Python. We saw 2 examples. Now let's move further. We'll work around arbitrary keyword arguments in Python. Arbitrary keyword argument means you need to add 2 asterisks, that is 2 stars, unlike what we saw before. So add 2 asterisks before the parameter name in a function definition if you have no idea about how many keyword arguments will be passed to a function. Herein we have no idea about how many keyword arguments will be passed. So arbitrary keyword arguments. Let us see an example. Herein I'll create a function demo. Within that I'll use star twice, that is asterisk twice, I told you. Okay. I'll just print the values for student name and section. Okay, so we printed the values. What are these? Student and section, we'll see here. These are the keyword arguments. So when I'll call, I'll use them. Student is equal to Jack. Section is equal to, let's say, AD. So we have defined a function with multiple keyword arguments here. Okay, using double star, double asterisk, and we have printed the values. So when we'll call the function, we have these keyword arguments and this will be passed here and the same arguments will get printed one by one. Okay, here student and section. So in this way we worked around keyword arguments when we had no idea in advance how many keyword arguments will be passed. Okay, so here we had no idea about this. That's why we used 2 star. Okay, so we are done with it. We have completed all these with examples, types of function arguments. Okay, so herein we saw the first one, required arguments. It is the required number of arguments to be passed on function call. If you'll miss any of the arguments, there will be an error. We saw that. Then we worked around keyword arguments. Okay, through keyword argument we can easily pass the arguments in any order while calling a function. We saw the same. So this is completely different from required arguments. In required arguments you cannot skip any argument and you cannot even change the order. If you'll do that, there will be an error. We saw the same. Default arguments we saw, as the name suggests, if you won't pass a value, a default value is assumed for that argument, which will pass while defining a function. Then we saw arbitrary arguments. It works when we have no idea about the number of arguments to be passed. So we use the single asterisk here. In the same way we had these arbitrary keyword arguments. In this way the concept is same, but you don't know in advance how many keyword arguments will be passed. Okay, so we saw all these examples. Now let's move further towards recursion. Recursion means when a function calls itself, it is called recursion. Okay, so this allows you to reduce the line of code in your code. Because the function it called itself, that means we have reduced the LOC by our coding logic, and that also makes your code efficient. So herein we can easily work around, we can easily understand recursion using the factorial example, okay, which we'll just see. Recursion in Python. So let us create a function to calculate recursion. We have passed the parameter num, that is a number. If number is equal to 0, return 1, else return num into, now we'll call the function again, that means recursion. So we have called the function again, but with num minus 1 value. So we are working on recursion here. So let's say you just call the function. Let's say we are finding 0 factorial initially. Okay, so I'll just pass 0 here. In the same way, I'll work around different approaches. Let's say 1 factorial, I passed 1. Let's say 7 factorial, I passed 7, and let's say 10 factorial. 4 examples. 4 values we passed one by one through call. Okay, the function name is cal. Now it's fine. Now I'll just run it. You can see we have found the values for factorial. How? At first we pass 0 factorial, so cal function pass 0 here. Number will have 0. If number is equal to 0, that means condition is true. It returned 1. The output is 1 here. That means 0 factorial is 1. Okay. Now what about 1 factorial? It has passed 1 factorial. When is number is equal to 0? No, because number is having 1 now here. Okay, so it will go to the else condition and it will return number into the recursion value, that is calling the function again with a value less than the number. This will pass 1 into calc0. So here in 1 into calc0, if you remember cal0 was 1, so 1 into 1 will be 1, that is 1 factorial is also 1. In the same way, let's say I worked around 7 factorial. 7 factorial, 7 is passed here. It won't go under if condition because it's not equal to 0. It will go to else. Now we have 7 here, 7 into cal6. 7 minus 1 is 6, that means 7 into cal6. Now recursion, cal3 will again go here and will find values, then it will go to cal5 minus 1. Then it will again go cal4, cal3, cal2, cal1, and it will calculate the result of the number with the cal function, that is recursion, and it will display the output. In the same way it works for 10 factorial. Let us see. The figure suggests the same way we found the function name is calc. There it was cal. Okay, but the concept is same. So first call went with 7 factorial, then it was num into calc num minus 1, that is num was 7 into calc 7 minus 1 6. Then it will again go and the next recursion call, the third call. Okay, now the value of num is 6 here. Okay, so it will go inside 6 minus 1 5. In the next call it will go 5 minus 1 4, 4 minus 1 3, 3 minus 2 1, 2 minus 1 1. In the same way it will calculate the multiplication again and again, and it will display the result of recursion. So this is how recursion works. Now let us focus on the return statement in Python. It is basically used to terminate or exit the function and is basically placed at the end. So the return statement with an expression will get evaluated first. Okay, so a return statement with an expression will get evaluated first and then it will return to the function called. So let us see an example. Let's say I'll create a function demo. Okay, now I have used the return statement with an expression. So this will be 10 plus num. 10 plus this value will get returned. Now what is the value of num? We will pass using the demo function. Okay, we have passed here. Let's say we passed demo 2. So 2 value will get passed here. Num is equal to 2. It will go here. 12 will get returned and get printed. Here and you can see 12 got printed. In the same way you can add other values. Let's say I added this. I'll right click. What will happen? I'll run. What will happen? 10 will go here. 10 plus 10 is 20. So 20 will get returned after 12. So this is how the return statement works in Python. Now let us see another example. This for example 1. Now this is example 2. Let's say we created a function demo, 3 parameters ABC. Now I have added those values and displayed the result. Add this here. Now I'll add values for sum. Let's say I added 5, 7, 15. Now when I'll run it, it will pass all these 3 values here and it will go to the res variable for the output for the result, and the result will get printed using return statement. I'll run it. Herein you can see 27 is the output, 5 plus 7 plus 15. Now what about adding different values? 50, 500 and let's say 1000. I'll right click and run. What will be the output? 1550 will get returned here using the return statement. Here it is. Okay, so this is how we can work around the return statement. So guys, in this video we saw what are functions in Python. We also worked around function arguments, including the default, required, keyword, arbitrary arguments. With that, we also worked around recursion and the return statement. Thank you for watching the video.